Hey everyone, it's Ryan from the Ryan MTB Podcast. Welcome back. This week I am talking with Drew Medlock from Allied Cycle Works. So we have a wide-ranging conversation about signing Kate Courtney and Allied's sports marketing, athlete marketing efforts, the bike industry, some of Allied's bikes, and even tariffs in the bike industry. So enjoy the show. Drew Medlock, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So Drew, you're with Allied Cycle Works. You're the CEO. And yeah, why don't you introduce yourself and what you do at Allied?
Yeah. So my name is Drew. I've been at Allied for about 5 years now. And my title is CEO, but I focus on a lot. I mean, we're a very small company, so I have a lot of jobs, as you might imagine. But my focus is on product management, marketing, sales, and purchasing and dishes.
Yeah, doing it all. And I think, most people should be fairly familiar with Allied, but describe the Allied brand a bit and what you guys are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're a small brand. We've been in existence for, 8 or 9 years now. And we basically started out hand making frames in Little Rock, Arkansas. We were making road frames in a kind of custom construction, and that's evolved to now making more of kind of a standard production frames and a broader range of products. We make everything from a road bike all the way to a World Cup XC mountain bike full suspension. So we have a pretty strong offering, and we really specialize in kind of endurance off-road is the category that our brand's really focused on. So everything from gravel to mountain bikes. We have a range of athletes that race on those products.
Yeah, it's just such a cool thing that you're doing, because it's definitely hard to make these bikes here in the US. And you're making everything right here or right there in Bentonville, right? Or at least the surrounding area.
Yeah, we started out making fully everything in-house, and we've basically at this point we do outsource some of our parts. So like with our BC40 mountain bike, we actually have moved the carbon layup of that frame to another factory. Simply, we just kind of came to the point a couple of years ago. We realized that our appetite for product development and moving fast was basically outpacing what we were able to do within our factory. So we love manufacturing in-house and love what we do, but there's a pretty big limitation to what we can do in our small factory in Bentonville. So we kind of had to shift gears a little bit and move our resources more into product because that's where we felt like our heart was at with what we were stoked about doing, which is being fast to make new product versus just focusing 100% on manufacturing day in, day out. So it's a little bit of a change that we've made over the last year. We're still manufacturing a lot of stuff in-house, and for the frames like BC40, where we are outside of seeing the carbon part, we're still doing about 50% of the additive labor in-house. So getting a carbon part is a small step in the process, but we still do all the development, all the testing, all the quality control, all the frame prep, all the rework, all the frame prep for paint, and all assembly in-house.
Yeah, cool. Makes sense. Well, yeah, wanted to one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on the podcast today is talk about some of your athletes and marketing efforts. So the big news this year was you guys are working with Kate Courtney. You've been in the gravel space for a few years with like Payson McKelvin. Braden Johnson is new XCO rider for this year. So yeah, why don't give us an overview of your athlete team this year.
Yeah, well, I guess just taking a step back, I think we have always had we love the sport. We are passionate not only about making bikes, but also about like using them and racing them. And for us, there's no better validation of our product than having top athletes race on our product. So that's always been a focus and, a key principle for our brand. And as a small brand, you're kind of limited at first with what you can do, but we've been able to grow that over this year. And over the years. And now with this year being able to sign Kate Courtney as a World Cup athlete to race our bike was like a huge step for us. And it's amazing to kind of see something that, a project that basically started in a garage to turn into like, a bike race at the top caliber in the world.
Yeah, that's super cool.
So with Kate Courtney, she's focused on World Cup season, as she always is. And so that's a big step for us. We also have another rider, Braden Johnson, who you mentioned, who's a U23 rider from Durango. He'll also be racing on Allied BC 480 this year in World Cup. So we're really excited to have him on the team. I think he's ready to make the next step in his career, and he's was looking for some support, and we were just lucky enough to be able to help him out. So we're super stoked about that as well.
Yeah, super cool. And I think at least in the press release it said this is like the first time an Allied will be raced at the World Cup level. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. We've never had an athlete at the World Cup level. So we've really only focused on domestic racing. And that's the rest of our athletes are really just focused on the domestic off-road scene, for lack of a better term. And so our athletes on that center are Payson McElveen, Anna Yamauchi, Taylor Ladine, who's a local here in Bentonville, and then Maud Farrell. And then we have a few other ambassadors. And we also signed Michaela Thompson, who's also another Durango rider, young Durango rider as well, who's focused on off-road. And so those riders do a mix of both gravel and mountain bike racing, which is kind of like how things are working out, how it's most influential for US and really focused on, primarily the Grand Prix series, but all the big off-road events in the US.
Yeah. Sort of slowly growing, like started in the US and the Grand Prix gravel, and now on the world stage with the World Cups.
Yeah, it's good. And for sure, when we developed the BC 40 mountain bike, that was always our dream to race it in the World Cup. And to be quite frank, ultimately to race it in the Olympics. So that's where we're trying to go.
LA seems like everybody is excited for LA 2028 Olympics. So that's going to be insane.
Yeah, it's super exciting. And it's just, it's cool for us to, have that as something circled as a goal for us.
So with Kate Courtney specifically, like how did those conversations start? Did she approach you? Did you approach them? How did it work out?
Yeah, the US athlete and sponsor world is pretty small. It's pretty small, but I know our athlete Payson, knows Kate pretty well, and as well as some of our other athletes. And we had been talking about World Cup athletes and racing for quite the last couple of years, because we knew that's where we wanted to be and trying to figure out how to get there. And but really, Kate and Kate's agent reached out to us because they knew that we were looking, and asked us if we were interested, and we were super stoked to even be able to talk to her. And I think for a small brand, it was a really unique situation where Kate was building her own program, and something that we were able to work with and manage, because we weren't quite ready to build our own World Cup team ourselves. So it was really cool because Kate has the experience, knowledge to like run a team, even if it's a team primarily focused on her performance that we just didn't have.
I was gonna ask about that. Like, what were the considerations? And like, you could have like sponsored a team, or like you mentioned, started your own, or sponsored somebody more like a privateer, like Kate's doing. So, how did you sort of like think about that or approach it?
Yeah, we looked at all those options. Honestly, I think we first talked about like, hey, maybe there's a team that we could sponsor, and so we went down that path, a couple options, and it just didn't really work out. And honestly, it was kind of tough too, because it's really important for us to have like a top American on the team. So there's a lot of variables there, and we pursued a couple options that just didn't pan out. And then we were like, well, maybe we should just make our own team. And we started going into that and pursuing it. And, we quickly realized that getting into, UCI World Cup stuff that we needed somebody that already knew the rope there as an athlete and to kind of help guide us. And there's just not that many people in the US that know that well. We obviously, one of our ambassadors, Leah Davison, one of our ambassadors, Leah Davison, has always advised us a lot on that, but we kind of, we were going through that at the same time we met Kate, and Kate's like, I'm doing my own thing. I've already got a plan. So that was a much easier step for us just to work with her because she already knew exactly what she wanted to do and how she wanted to do it.
Yeah. It seems definitely super complicated, like just figuring out the whole World Cup system. And, it seems like you really need somebody in Europe who can manage it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the UCI has changed their rules this year about what team, like how to qualify as a team. They're kind of making it more like a world tour situation. So if you don't qualify as a team, you have to basically have points as an athlete. So that's where it was like, well, we really have to work with somebody like Kate because she basically is already pre-qualified because of her status.
Yeah, totally. And I've heard it's getting expensive too. Like even the team registration fees are going up. So not an easy place to get into. But I think Kate is a great match for you guys.
Yeah, thanks. We're super excited, and not to pick on the Lifetime Grand Prix, but most of the races in the series, except for Little Sugar, aren't really like a true test of your mountain bike capabilities, and not the same level as World Cup. So we were super excited to not only just to have an athlete riding at that level, but also to be, using our product and testing and developing new product at the top level.
Yeah. How do you think of the value of sponsoring like a top athlete like Kate on the World Cup level? Because obviously people are familiar with why brands sponsor athletes, but what's the value for you?
For sure. I think it's a pretty simple strategy. Our background before working with Allied, I worked with other brands, but I did spend a short time helping out with Canyon as they're coming to the United States. And I really learned a lot from the owner or founder, Roman Arnold from Canyon. And he had a pretty tight perspective on like, you build the bike, you have the top athlete, you put them together, and it's a successful strategy. And our lead engineer and product development manager, Sam Pickman, came from Specialized, and his philosophy was very much exactly the same. And I think it's kind of a basic strategy, but it's one that seems to work, especially if your goal is to build a performance product and a performance brand.
Speaking of performance, like what do you think the BC40, what makes that a good World Cup bike?
Yeah, it's I think it's kind of a cool story. I mean, when we started that bike, we were really trying to look into the future of what performance mountain bike was going to be, and also like what we were up against. We really didn't settle for trying to make something that was currently there. We tried to like really see what the space was and where things were going. All cards on the table. Like I used to live in Park City, Utah, and I went back on a riding trip several years ago, and all my buddies were riding the Specialized Epic Evo, which was really strange because they're not Specialized guys. They all ride whatever brand they want. And like, I went for a ride with them. They're all on the same bike. And I was like, okay, Specialized is onto something here because this fits this style of rider who's, like we're riding mostly XC trails, but still like want to ride aggressively and have fun. And so we really use that bike as a benchmark to start from. So we bought Epic Evo frames. We bought Epic World Cup frames. We bought Trek Super Caliber frames. We bought frames of all the top World Cup brands. We brought them in house. We took them apart. We weighed every single part. We put them on our testing rigs. We tested them for stiffness. We did sonars of the wall thickness of the tubes. We looked at the suspension kinematics. So we really benchmarked what they were doing, and then we looked at where we wanted to go. So we kind of knew where the bar was, and then we know where we wanted to go in terms of performance. And so it really made a nice way for us to figure out the next step. And then the kind of like the secret thing that, it's not really a secret, but it's like the special sauce is, for me at the time, having a super slack cross country bike just wasn't a thing that people did. But I had a firm belief that like speed is going to be based on how efficient the bike pedals and the overall weight. It doesn't have anything to do with the head angle. So like if your head angle is 2 degrees slacker going uphill, it's really not going to slow you down going uphill. Like weight and efficiency are really what matters there. But going downhill or through technical terrain, the head angle, wheelbase, that's a huge impact to your ability to steer the bike at speed. So that's what we were really going after was, a bike that has like very, very efficient World Cup, capable pedaling platform, a bike that positions the rider weight right in the center of the bike. So they feel well centered, and that also helps the suspension respond more efficiently. And then, we pushed the front wheel out. So like it was the longest cross-country bike on the market by a pretty good stretch. I mean, I was obviously nervous because we were in this weird zone between cross-country bikes and trail bikes that nobody else was in when we made the bike. And now everybody's, emulating that geometry.
Really came right as down country was becoming a thing. And as you mentioned, now it's a pretty popular trend.
Yeah. My beef with all the down country bikes at the time is they're all heavy and not of them that had like really much anti-squat. So they were kind of like squishy to pedal. Like, is this like a short travel trail bike? It wasn't really like a cross country machine.
Yeah. It's so funny how varied mountain biking can be. Like you've got a million different categories of bikes. And then like some companies are sort of like based on where they are based, like I feel like some people have like a Pacific Northwest bias in like bike design or even like media. But it's a wide world of bikes out there.
Oh yeah. And we definitely are, working from our bias as well. Like we most of us come from like, racing at an amateur or high level. And like, it's like we want a racy bike, and also with the nature of our trails being pretty cross-country oriented around here in Northwest Arkansas, it's like we, obviously we're thinking about World Cup racing, but we're also thinking about what we want to ride every day.
Perfect Bentonville bike.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like the BC40, there's some slight updates to it this year.
Yeah, so we made some small modifications to the frame. So, long story short, we were basically in a place where we needed to update the tooling for BC40. And so that's when we decided to move the carbon frame production from our in-house factory to another top tier factory in another country. So we updated the tooling that time. When we updated that, we were able to reduce the frame weight by about 100 grams and also increase the front and rear triangle stiffness of the frame. So that was a big win when we were able to do that small update. Outside of that, cosmetically, the frame isn't really any different. It's more just a carbon layup. We also had a couple of mechanical interfaces that we were able to manufacture better with the new version. So different strategy for how we're making the main pivot bearing support and also the bottom bracket interface. So, and then kind of exciting thing that we worked on was a new handlebar and stem for this bike. So we've always played around with the idea of making handlebars and stems, but we've never we don't want to making something unless we're like, okay, we can make something better than what we're different than we're getting from our suppliers. Because if our suppliers, like our buddies at MD or Industry 9 have something that we think is like the best product in the world, then like why make it? We started looking at it. We saw an opportunity using some of the strategy from our road and gravel stem that only has a 2-bolt faceplate. That a lot of the weight in the handlebar stem system is basically due to just stop clamping forces from a 4-bolt faceplate. And so we started playing around with that and realized that we could make a handlebar that's way lighter than most individual handlebars. And then we can make it a 2-piece system so you can still have the adjustability. So, hey, if you want to swap stem lengths or swap stem rises, like you have all that independent adjustment. So that was the strategy we went after. And because of our, in-house manufacturing and development strategy, and abilities, we were able to go after that super fast. Like we prototyped the new stem interface in 2 weeks, and the handlebar took a little bit longer, but we, were able to build a mold in house. And then, within a month, have prototypes of the handlebar that we were riding. And then we had, Payson rode the stem across New Zealand. And then when we just started working with Kate Courtney and she wanted to test our bikes, she was testing the handlebar and stem for us as well. And we went through a couple iterations of layup and the stem design, and then we came to what it is with now, which is basically a 200-gram handlebar stem with a 50-millimeter length. So although I know there's some brands in Europe that claim to have something lighter, like I've never actually tested anything in-house that's lighter.
Yeah, you can never quite believe the marketing. People inflate stuff.
Yeah, well, there's like a lot of specialty brands in Europe, so there's real small brands that just don't have distribution here, and they probably make cool products, but I've just never seen it.
Right. Are we going to see even more mountain bike models from Allied anytime soon?
The answer would be yes. We're definitely working on some stuff. It's a little bit too far out to give much more details than that, but yeah, we're definitely working on a couple mountain bike models right now.
Nice. Well, we'll have to keep our eyes out. Going back to your background, how did you come to be working for Allied?
Yeah, I've been in the bike industry for most of my career. I think I was mostly on the retail side. I was a buyer and then managed the bike vertical at backcountry.com and competitivecyclist.com. So that was a big part of my career. And then I moved over to the manufacturing side. I went and helped Canyon start up in the United States, like I mentioned. And then from there, I had a kind of weird opportunity. I knew the owner at Moot Cycles. So he had just bought Moot Cycles in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, and he was looking for somebody more from like a marketing product background, like myself, to join the team because they had such a strong manufacturing based team. And so I went out to Steamboat and helped Moots for a few years, and that was a great experience. Just because they have like an insane manufacturing and high quality culture, and did a cool product there. So I helped them out for a few years, and then that was awesome. But then the Allied opportunity came out, and that really got me more excited because building a bike like the BC40 was my dream, and I realized that Moots wasn't the right brand to to do that with. So Allied was a perfect brand to do something like this with.
Passions and dreams there. Like, sounds like obviously you're passionate about the BC40, passionate about product, but what else?
Yeah, I think when it came to Allied and meeting the team, I mentioned Sam Pickman, who's our head of development R&D. We just have a really close perspective on what we want to do with the brand, and the rest of the team really supports that. So we're all very, very insanely passionate about riding mountain bikes, road bikes, gravel bikes. Like we're into all of it, and also really have a desire to build a high performance brand, but something that's a little different. I think we have a lot of respect for what Specialized does with the S-Works caliber of products and how they utilize that to develop some cutting edge stuff, and then also like, race at the highest level. And, like we definitely are all very focused that that's like what we want to do. But we also really want to keep the brand a little more accessible and fun. So we also focus on like personalization by like doing custom paint, which is a huge part of our brand, and custom builds, and also be able to move fast. So like, developing like the new handlebar stem, like I talked about, like stuff like that. We come with crazy ideas and just be able to develop it, bring it to market really quickly.
So it sounds like you moved from Steamboat Springs to Bentonville.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, quite the transition. Different landscapes, but both great bike towns.
Yeah, definitely very good. I definitely miss skiing, but it also is very, very nice to be able to ride all year round.
Yeah. Have you guys? Do you guys get much snow down there? I know it gets cold.
Yeah, we get it. We get a few snowstorms per year, surprisingly. So yeah, we get some. It's definitely a little colder down here than I would have expected.
Do you have like a go-to mountain bike ride in Bentonville?
Oh my gosh, that's a tough question. I would say most of us generally love riding Blowing Springs and Back 40 area. So, which thus the name the BC 40 came to be, because that's basically our favorite trail system. I think it's probably the most mature and the best developed trail system in Bentonville, and it's definitely the most fun, fastest XC style trail. Yeah, that's my favorite. I would say the ones that people don't ride that are or know about that are really awesome that they should go check out if they're in Bentonville, Kessler Mountain Bike Park in Fayetteville. That's probably the best overall trail system, I think, in the area. And then there's a state park called Hobbs just outside of Rogers where we're at that is also really, really nice and really fun. So those are two more well-kept secrets.
How has the recovery from the tornadoes last year gone?
It's gone well. Yeah, I think at Allied, at least for the factory, we just got super lucky and we just missed having any extensive tornado damage at the factory. So I mean, literally that's just pure luck because there's buildings on a block away from it just got completely leveled. So we lucked out there, and we had several of our employees' homes that got damaged. And working through that, but I think yeah, one of our guys is still not back in his house yet, but we're all dealing with it. So that's good. And then the trail crews here did a phenomenal job of getting the trails cleared back and everything rideable again. So it's been a wild experience, and also amazing to see the community coming together to work together to take care of each other. Because it's definitely, especially in the neighborhoods here, that there was not enough crews to be able to clear the roads and make space for emergency vehicles to get together, and all the people and the community came out. I had the whole NICA team from my son's school come out and help clear our road. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, I wrote an article over the summer sort of about the impacts from the tornadoes on the trails. So talked with the trail organization, and yeah, good to hear that you guys are recovering.
Yeah, it's insane, especially in the wintertime when you ride through and you can see how many down trees there were and how much work they did. It's mind blowing.
Yeah, I definitely heard. I remember the takeaway there was just like, yeah, so many trees that just like fell and had to be cleared out.
Yeah, it's really intense, and I think that some of the other areas that don't get rid as much will probably still have a little bit of work to do. But I mean, for it within 66 months to say that probably 98% of it is cleaned up is like completely insane.
Yeah, it seems like a problem. Yeah, we're gonna continue having, like, wherever you ride mountain bike trails. It's like in Colorado, you've got fires. Down there,
Yes.
You have tornadoes. Other places get floods. So yeah, just a reality of our sport now.
Yeah, it's definitely seeming like it's getting more and more intensive. So it's definitely, the maintenance and care and feeding, supporting organizations that do that is really key.
Yeah. Does Allied do any work there in terms of giving back to the trails or environmental stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think we don't do anything super structured for employees, but all of us, volunteer with in the community, and then for us, we just try to keep within our company as low of a footprint as possible. So do a few different activities. I think big one for us, from environmental impact is just we've always tried to just repair a product versus just replacing it. That's always been our way to try to like get the most life out of goods. Carbon's highly repairable. So we've always tried to take that path whenever it's the best call, which, is something that is a little different than most other brands, but we, thought was the right thing to do.
Yeah. So can people send in their frames and you guys can fix them?
Yeah, we don't repair other people's products, but definitely for our customers, if they have like a crash failure or a warranty issue, then we'll try to take care of it. And sometimes the best decision for us is if they're cool with it for us to repair it. It takes a little bit longer, but that way we can use the same product again without having to just throw it away.
Yeah, that's super cool. And yeah, that's a huge one. I feel like, yeah, bit more, maybe a bit more common with like clothing brands, because that's a bit more simple, but yeah, cool that you can repair something like as big as a frame too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, carbon's a like wild material. It's very, very repairable.
Didn't prep you for this question at all. So yeah, hopefully don't put you too much on the spot, but how do you feel just about the health of the bike industry? Like you definitely see scary headlines and scary YouTube videos out there. So what's your perspective on that?
I would say this year was, it's obviously been a big challenge for everyone since the pandemic. Obviously, the pandemic basically turned into a big hangover. We had a boom and then a bust, and I was heading into 2024. I was really optimistic that the worst of it was behind us and that we were gonna like move out of it. But it seems like things haven't really started rebounding fully yet. So we saw a lot of brands after the pandemic. They had a lot of bad inventory and they had to get rid of it. And now they've reordered back into new inventory, and it's not moving. And that was a little bit of a scary one for me to see. So since I like to pick on Specialized, when I saw last week they were putting Stumpy 15s and Epic 8s on sale, I was like, that sucks. This is rough. So I do think in some reality it's just a new landscape too. I think, in the past, the brands just relied on the retailers to flush bad inventory for them, and now the brands are like doing it themselves, and getting to witness the fact that it, like when you put things on sale, you can get like a little demand kick, and I think that's probably a new reality that the industry has to deal with, going forward, which isn't my favorite thing, but it's probably the way it's going to be for a while.
Yeah. And my thinking on it is, and like, not an expert by any means, but like, yeah, like what even is normal now? Like there's always gonna be highs, always gonna be lows. So like, how do you plan for it?
Yeah, I think for us, I can't say for other brands. We've really tried to be very like pragmatic and measured in our growth approach. So we just don't end up with a lot of excess product, and like, because that's ultimately like the challenge. So like, it's like whatever we make and whatever we buy, it's like we need to be able to sell that. So that's the approach, but it also means that you're also limited in like how much you can grow.
Yeah, totally. And it seems like maybe for you guys, like it helps a bit having your own factory in Bentonville, right? But then like parts, Shimano, SRAM, you could get caught up in what's going on with their stuff, right?
Honestly, running your own factory is way harder, to be quite honest, because
interesting.
Like, when you're talking about SRAM, it's like, yeah, like like how many forks I plan to order, I can change that within 90 days. Like to ramp capacity in a factory takes 18 months. So if we plan to ramp our capacity at the factory to a certain point, changing that doesn't happen overnight. So that's where we've had to be really measured. And that's also one of the reasons why we decided to outsource some of our product as well, just because for us, if we plan for growth and then we don't get it, I mean, that's like people's jobs and livelihoods that we plan for now can't facilitate. It's not just canceling a PO. So it has real consequences. So we have to be much more responsible with how we plan for our own internal production.
Right. That's interesting. Yeah. Didn't know that.
Yeah. If all our production was totally automated and it was just like pressing a button, things popping out, but nothing that we do works quite that way. So it's all skilled labor, training, planning, coordination to make it happen. And so it's a slow process it's a very slow process to build up.
Yeah. And yeah, obviously tons of craziness outside of the bike industry too. Like, I don't know, are tariffs a concern for you guys or no?
Yeah, we're never a super huge fan of surprise tariffs, which I don't think anybody on the economics or like business investment side loves surprise tariffs. But I think the situation isn't surprising to us like too much. I mean, like we all had a good guess that Trump was going to become the president and then he was going to like go back after tariffs. And it's pretty funny, like for products coming out of China. Like I was reading an article with economists before this, and they estimated there was going to be a 35% tariff, and that's what it ended up being. So, it's like, okay, it's not too surprising. But yeah, the reciprocal tariff thing, that was a surprise to me for sure. That one like caught a lot of people off guard, which I don't think everyone knows about. Like most of the bikes, not to make it too long of a story, but before the first pandemic wave of demand, most bikes were made in China, and then Trump put a China tariff on. So most bikes now are made in Vietnam to avoid the tariff. Now there's a reciprocal tariff that basically means that, whatever Vietnam charges as a tariff, we're going to charge back to them. So Vietnam's tariff, I believe, is like 40 or 45%. So in theory, every bike that's made in Vietnam is going to get a huge tariff addition placed onto it, which is, not great for the bike industry. It will cause a huge and more inflation on bike parts if there's not, if they don't change their policy, which I'm sure they probably will. But it's really tough. I think some of these policies would be much better served if they were, hey, we want to do this and give countries and manufacturers the time to react to it, versus like with the Trump policy stuff, we literally don't know what's going to happen until the policy hits and we can read it. So,
and I've heard like it could be another challenge is like the flip-flopping between administrations, right? Like if every 4 years it changes, then you can't plan for it.
Yeah, you can't plan for it, and it's really hard. It's like it doesn't really particularly impact us, but I know a lot of companies who've invested in manufacturing in Mexico, which is like it's a good move, and it's a great for the Mexican economy. It's a great way to build the right kind of jobs and economic growth, in that country, and they want it. They have the labor, now we're kind of killing that. So that's a bummer from my perspective, as from a manufacturing and sourcing standpoint. So it's definitely an interesting time, and we'll see how it all shakes out. And I think that we'll all figure out ways to, work around it or with, the policies in place. But as a small manufacturer, I will go out and say that tariffs don't help us really. What helps us is investment in small manufacturing. So,
right. And just because there's tariffs doesn't mean that people are just going to magically start making more bikes in the US. So
no, there's so many challenges, and like there's no such thing as like there's no like we're all dependent on each other within this industry, right? So, I mean, of course, Taiwan isn't specifically impacted by these tariffs, but I mean, most of the parts we're putting on bikes come from Taiwan, right? And somebody from Wall Street Journal was asking me about this, about raw materials, like say aluminum or carbon or whatever it is, and yeah, some of the stuff we buy is U.S. made, but most of the product coming in and raw materials is coming from China. So if we tariff that, then it creates inflation because those products are now getting tariffed, and then you get a monopoly on the U.S. made goods, and then those prices are going to go up too. Like it's all like very, very intertwined. So tariffs are not like a easy answer for that to stimulate manufacturing for sure.
yeah. I guess lastly there, like, yeah, how do you approach this? Like as a leader of a company, like, yeah, how do you approach what are you telling your employees to do? And so on.
Yeah. I mean, I think for us, not much has really changed. I think, like I said, like we do have some parts that do come directly from China that, are getting impacted by this, but we did a pretty good job of anticipating what that likely could be like if Trump became president. And so, we were, I guess, maybe just lucky that we were able to think ahead and guess what was going to happen and be pretty close. So outside of that, I don't think, much else changes. And just like all of these things, there's tons of loopholes always. So we're also able to, dance around that. And, like I said, with most of the parts we're getting, where no matter where they originate from, they most take port and are made in Taiwan. So they already avoid tariffs. So,
well, yeah, we covered some ground here, but yeah, what else is interesting about your job? Like we covered marketing, covered products. Is there anything like that would surprise people that you do leading a bike company?
oh man. Yeah, I mean, for a small company, it's just, we do everything we can to keep things rolling. So, yeah, I've done everything from honing seat tubes to mopping up after flood, do the purchasing, you name it.
Yeah. How big is Allied at this point in terms of like employees or?
Yeah, so right now I think we're at 25 headcount. So there's about 6 or 7 of us that are more on the admin side, and everybody else is on the manufacturing side.
So definitely in the boutique and like high performance space, but pretty dang small.
Yeah, very small.
What how does that compare to like other companies that people would know? Like I have no idea how like say how big a Yeti is or
yeah, we're definitely smaller than Yeti is, both in terms of, I'm sure in terms of staff and also in terms of revenue growth. I mean, I think we probably definitely have more people than a similar size company, just because of how much infrastructure we have for manufacturing here, that's fully invested, since we make a lot of parts here. We do all of our quality here. We do all of our development here. We're doing all of our paint and assembly here. It's just, it takes a lot of people to do that.
Awesome. Well, yeah, just to wrap up, like what's your go-to ride? Are you more like off-road or road or gravel or?
These days, I think I end up riding more gravel around here locally than anything else. Yeah, we're also very, very fortunate to have an insane amount of gravel roads. Definitely more gravel roads than we have paved roads. And so I love getting out, especially after work at night this time of year, to ride at dark on the gravel roads is very peaceful. Nice way to get away from everything.
Yeah. Is there a book, movie, music, TV show that you cultural products that you would recommend to people, either, I don't know, bike related or not?
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah, me and my family are huge, and most of my employees are really into Severance right now, the TV show. So if you haven't watched that, you should definitely watch it. It's really awesome. And we definitely, after every episode the show comes out on Friday, we have a meeting at work to talk about it.
Yeah, I keep hearing about that one. Haven't seen it, but I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, definitely check it out.
I'm always like so late to the popular shows and stuff, so we'll see.
Yeah, that was one that came out like in pandemic, and so it took them like 3 years or so before they made the second episode. So we've been waiting anxiously.
Cool. Well, anything else you want to tell the world about yourself and Allied?
No, we appreciate the time, and anybody that take time to listen to our story, we definitely appreciate it. And we're easily accessible, so you can reach out to us anytime if you want to hear more about Allied, and then you can see us at Sea Otter, Unbound, Leadville, and then of course here at any of the races in Bentonville.
Cool. Well, yeah, appreciate the chat, Drew.
Yeah, thank you.